Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike Glover with Black Rifle Coffee Company. Let's talk about AR-15 setups as a pro tip. Now, this is my opinion on AR-15 setups. There's going to be a lot of opinions on how you set up your battle rifle depending on what the objective is. I mean, if your intent is to do varmint hunting versus self-defense versus teaching on a flat range, they're all going to be different. So let me tell you why I set up my rifle like this and the intended purpose, and walk you through some of the steps from barrel to the buttstock. Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to Pro Tips with Black Rifle Coffee Company. I want to make sure that you get the notifications on the new latest drops because we're doing a lot. Make sure you hit the subscription button and hit the notification tab so you can get those updates. I appreciate you. And now, on to the content. Starting off at the barrel, have a can on all your AR-15s. Now, I think outside of real compact requirements, you're going to want a can. I mean, it's not going to silence it. It's not going to be quiet. It's still going to be seemingly loud, but you're not going to need ear protection potentially, and you're not going to blast your friends. You're not going to lose friends by blasting muzzle brake and gas all over the place. So it's a good idea to have a can. I'm using a CGS can out of New Mexico on this one, which is a screw-on, straight onto the barrel. This is an 11.5-inch barrel, but that screws on, doesn't have to worry about a comp and screwing over a comp and latching it a certain way. This just dials down, no timing required, and I'm good to go. So kind of always think about that. Always have a can. For most purposes, you could use a can. If I go down to the rail of this, I like BCM, Bravo Company of Manufacturing, because I think they make the best AR-15s in the world. I don't get paid by a BCM. I've just used them. And getting out of the military where I had Colt platforms, it was the closest thing to a work gun that felt comfortable, but I didn't have to worry about. Like most BCMs that I've used, I've never had to worry about any issues with reliability, durability. So this is an 11.5-inch BCM with a top rail. I don't have a requirement for a lot of rail space. Picatinny rails, like quad Picatinny rails, is just going to add a lot of weight that's unnecessary. If you're going to only mount a couple accessories, why have all that rail space? Which is one of the reasons why now a lot of guys have shifted to a lighter carbine setup. I mean, the carbines of my time early on in the military were just, I mean, the original rail systems that we got from Knight's Armament actually were just like pull-on rails that you put on that were removable, that acted as the dust covers and heat shields. And then the Picatinny rail was made on them. This rail setup is a true free-floating rail. It's not touching anything, and it's, mounted to the upper receiver. So this is going to be one of the best optimal setups, and I think a lot of people have already went there. So you're probably already likely using this kind of setup anyway. When I start off from the top to the bottom, I do have an LA5 or a PAC-15. There are different infrared and visible laser setups that you can go. I do teach night vision courses, so I have to have an infrared setup, and I have it forward mounted. Now, a lot of people forward mount them because it's easy to C-clamp and activate the top switch, but a lot of people put them down here. Like some of my setups I actually have here. And I've actually heard somebody say, Mike, why would you put that laser down here where your hand's in the way? Well, I use my hands to activate the switch on the LA5. So when my hand's above it C-clamped, I'm good. And so if I'm C-clamping forward of the laser that's mounted here, I'm doing that because it's daylight. I mean, 90% of the stuff that I do now is daylight. I teach the occasional class. So that's why some of my guns have this mounted rearward, because I don't need to have it always front mounted. So also, it depends on your flavor and style where you want to mount the switch setup. I don't have a switch or dual pressure pad switch for my laser and for my white light. My white light is actually mounted to where this is a Surefire mount. This is a Surefire light with a BCM mount where it rolls into the groove just to make it a little bit more streamlined so it's not sticking out here. But I have it mounted here because I activate the switch on top to be able to activate the light. And then if I have to go to infrared, I just come up here and then activate this with my thumb. I'm not going to be potentially activating both at the same time. I don't think that's a thing, but I have it two separate distinct locations, okay? Also, I have a Surefire. This is a Micro Scout, just a smaller form factor. There are smaller lights, but I don't know, whatever you're into. Like, I want it to be sleek so I can wedge it in between my car seat and the center console, depending on what work we're doing and training. I don't want a big, bulky light. Some of the original lights that I used were like this big. Even some of the Surefire lights were super big. I want it side mounted, tucked out of the way. I don't mount any kind of rail setup on the bottom of my grip, and nor do I do a, what they call pimp grip, battle stick, broomstick, because I like to have, grabbing the top of the gun, I like to have my hand fully encompassing both the rail and the IR laser. Also, if I'm mounting this on top of something, let's say I'm going over the top of a car or the top of an obstacle, I don't want anything to impede that. So I keep this usually flat. Going down here, I do have a bit of rail, Picatinny rail, that's on the side of the support side of my gun, so I could have my quick detach sling adapter installed into this VTAC adapter. Now, this is an older VTAC adapter. I've had this for years, but why reinvent the wheel? There are sleeker options where you can plug it in closer to the rail, but I don't mind this one, right? I think the key is have a quick detach setup. A lot of people will take their QD sling, attach it here, maybe not even attach it to the front of the gun at all. They'll have it attached to the buttstock, but that depends on what you're doing. I typically like a 2-point sling setup. This sling is made by GBRS, and I appreciate this sling setup because it allows me to cinch it down on my body, but also it's not in the way. So QD attachment here, QD attachment on the rear of the stock. Pretty lightweight, a little bit of padding. As I go down on the optic, I do have a riser. Now, this riser is not egregious like a lot of the risers are built today. I just need enough rise to get over the optic. This riser I had in the military, I just found it in a box and was like, why don't I repurpose it? There are a lot of good mounts. I mean, GBRS has a good mount that gets you over the laser, so your height over bore is really high, which is the middle of the dot over the middle of the barrel is really high, but sometimes that's necessary to get up and out of the way, especially when using an infrared laser. I think the GBRS model of that has the laser actually attached to the rail to get it above the actual rail system so none of the infrared laser is shadowing on the gun. So I have a Leupold LCO attached to a Picatinny rail with a little bit of space, and it's just a red dot. On the back end of the gun, I do have a modified charging handle, and then I have a standard buttstock. All of this is really simple as a setup for the flat range, but let me tell you what it's not good at. It's not good at reaching out and touching a target from extreme distances. Why? Well, one, I don't have a variable magnified optic, so I don't have the ability to see the target at distance. I also don't have the ability to potentially shoot the holdover that's necessary, because this is just a dot. These can range from a couple minutes of angle to a few minutes of angle as far as the size of the dot, but I don't have the staged reticle to be able to hold over on a target at extreme distances. Now, having experienced this in real life, this is totally capable of reaching out and touching targets at distance. What is it? According to the book answer in the military, it's 550 meters point, I believe 800 meters area. So you could reach out 5 football fields away and potentially address a target. I think 2 of the 40 targets that you shoot are 500 yards, maybe 2 to 4 targets are 500 yards for the Army marksmanship test. So if privates in the infantry are shooting this gun out to 500 yards, that could be in your wheelhouse. But if you don't have the variable magnification to identify the target, hold over on the target, depending on how much you have to hold over for distance, then it's not great for long range distances. So I consider this a short range self-defense gun. We can call it a capable gun out to a couple hundred meters if necessary. Let's call it 300 meters. And it's my work gun. It's what I train with. I train law enforcement, I train civilians, and it's something that I'm very comfortable with using in this setup. What would my long gun setup? Well, that's another video. We'll do the pro tip video of the long gun setup where I'm using variable magnification and have a couple other considerations to talk about. Guys, I wanted to share that. That's my opinion. You guys might have your opinions. Leave your opinions in the comments and feedback below because I want to know what kind of gun setups you guys have. Till next time. Peace out, guys. Hey guys, hope you love that content on Pro Tips. We love getting your feedback. We want to hear what you want us to talk about next. Look, we cover the full spectrum of preparedness, so don't feel shy. Make sure you let us know what you want us to give pro tips on down below in the comments. Until next time. Thanks, guys.